Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'alas shalah. Hayya 'alas salah. Hayya 'alal falah. Hayya 'alal falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Senang banget hari ini di bulan Ramadan ini kita mau ngobrol-ngobrol. Ada Ustad Noman Alikan. Thank you so much for your time. Alhamdulillah. Mungkin buat teman-teman semua yang pengen tahu Ustadz Noman Alikan ini adalah seorang pembicara Muslim jauh-jauh dari Amerika dan juga pengajar bahasa Arab dan memang dari keluarga turunan Pakistan. Jadi tadi kita sempat ngobrol bahwa ternyata nama belakangnya sama kakeknya Raffi. Yeah, I told them that you guys, my husband and you have the same family name. Khan,
Yes, Khan, yeah.
from
Khan.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Dan juga beliau mendirikan Institut Bainah untuk studi bahasa Arab dan juga Al-Quran setelah mengajar bahasa Arab. Beliau mengajar bahasa Arab di Nassau Community College dan juga beliau dinobatkan sebagai salah satu dari 500 muslim paling berpengaruh di dunia oleh Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center Jordan. Dan Ustadz Noman Alikan ini menarik perhatian komunitas muslim karena tema dakwahnya ini benar-benar yang dibawakan ini menggunakan sudut pandang linguistik Al-Quran. Jadi kayak kemarin kita sempat ya datang ke kajiannya Ustadz Noman Alikan ini benar-benar benar-benar rasanya dekat banget, relate banget dan mengkajinya, daily practice-nya juga benar-benar bisa langsung diterapkan. Jadi pengennya nanti teman-teman juga bisa mendengarkan, betul.
Jadi ilmunya bisa makin disebarkan ke banyak orang.
Mungkin karena bahasa Inggris Caca lebih bagus, Caca aja ngomong dulu.
Enggak juga sih. Okay, first we want to ask you about how does Islam in Quran position men and women in terms of their roles and responsibilities, maybe based on Al-Quran?
I think there's a lot of different perspectives on that. So if somebody else was sitting in this chair and you asked them that question, they would give a very different answer. And I think if you asked 100 different people, they'll give you 100 different answers. So I'd like to be humble to the fact that I'm not going to represent Islam. I'm going to represent what I understand of Islam. And my understanding could be wrong, but whatever I've been able to understand so far, it seems very clear to me that Allah expects the same kind of relationship with Him from men and from women. So in al-Muslimina wal-Muslimat wal-Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat. And that's important to understand. And the famous ayat like that, believing men, believing women, Muslim men, Muslim women, right? And so on and so forth. The reason that's important is because the original relationship we have is with Allah. That relationship existed even before I was born. So we say our oldest relationship is our mother. It's actually Allah. It's older than that. And if in that relationship there is no distinction, right? The ruh of all of the children of Adam were taken out from Adam. That was men and women, right? So in that sense, the ruh that Allah puts inside a human being, it's not a different kind of ruh or different material of ruh for men and different material of ruh for women. So spiritually speaking, they're equals, right? So that's one important observation, I think. The second observation is that the Quran, it talks about humanity in a way that is different from how the Bible talks about humanity. So in the Bible, Eve was tempted by the devil, and then Eve convinced Adam, and then in some versions of the Bible, Eve ate from the tree and then gave Adam to eat from the tree. In the Quran, they both made a mistake together. That's فَأَزَلَّهُمَا, the devil made both of them slip. So there's only two versions in the Quran, or two ways of telling the story. Either both of them made a mistake, or Adam made a mistake, because actually Adam was made responsible. Because he's the leader of the household, so he was made responsible. So spiritually speaking, equals. The second part, I think, is socially speaking, or family-wise. What I think Allah has done is He created the first relationship, which is between a man and a woman. So the first relationship is actually not parent-child, spiritually speaking. The first relationship is marriage. Adem and Hawa, that's marriage, right? And in that relationship, once again, sometimes we take our interpretation from Bible sources, and that becomes a problem. In the Bible, Eve was taken from the rib of Adam, and she was by his side. And once they ate from the tree, the punishment of Eve was that she is owned by man. That's her punishment, that she's owned by man. The Quran actually rejects this idea. The Quran told the same story without mentioning any of that, right? So what Allah has done socially is that Allah has given men and women different guidelines in terms of clothing. That's where you can clearly see there's a difference in guideline when it comes to clothing, right? Obviously, because Allah made the bodies of men different from the bodies of women. So that makes complete sense. The second place where you see a difference is there's something so unique in the Quran. The women from Mecca escaped and came to Medina. So they were married to non-Muslims, and many of them, and they escaped their husbands and they became Muslim and they came to Medina. And they wanted to show the Prophet ﷺ that they're loyal to Islam. That's called bay'ah. They were taking a bay'ah, like a pledge. And they wanted to take a pledge with the Prophet ﷺ. There is no pledge with men mentioned in the Quran. There's no pledge with men mentioned, but the pledge of women is mentioned in the Quran. يُبَايِعْنَكَ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا يُشْرِكْنَ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَسْرِقْنَ وَلَا يَزْنِينَ وَلَا يَقْتُلْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ وَلَا يَأْتِينَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ يَفْتَرِينَ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِنَّ وَأَرْجُلِهِنَّ وَلَا يَأْتِينَ بِبُهْتَانٍ يَفْتَرِينَهُ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِنَّ وَأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. And I always thought about, why did Allah mention this for women? When I was doing a deep dive in Surah Al-Mumtahana, I realized men have weaknesses, but Allah made women with different weaknesses. And you don't need to know Islam to know that. We all know men have different weaknesses, women have different weaknesses. The pledge of women is about their weaknesses. So if a woman says, what is my Islam? What is the most important things in my Islam? It's the pledge of the women. That's the pledge. Okay, so the first one was they're not going to do shirk. So same common starting point, not going to do shirk. But then right after that is, and by the way, even on shirk, right? What happens when somebody's not able to have a baby? Right? Is the father going to somebody and say, give me some kind of special potion and do this or that? Or is the mother doing it most of the time?
Most of the time, the women.
Things can get a little murky and they can move towards shirk. So first thing, we're never going to turn towards shirk. Well, we're not going to steal. Now, stealing isn't just, there's kleptomania, right? When you go to somebody's house and you have to steal
You have the urge.
but not that. That's the extreme. But also stealing information, stealing, like, so there, you're sitting over here, you're listening over there, you're trying to, they're not, they're not going to do that, right? Stealing somebody's role, stealing somebody's position, they're not going to be sneaky. That's all yasriqna. They're not going to commit adultery. They're not going to make accusations that they just created. Like nowadays on social media, you have all these Karens, right? Like she's holding a cup of coffee and she's yelling at the manager, and nobody's listening to her. She goes, and nobody touched her, and she goes, "Ow!"
Yeah.
But it's on camera.
Yes.
Right? They just come up with accusations. They promise they will not make accusations. Like, in the story of Yusuf, Zulaykha made an accusation, right? She started crying and what should you do with this man? And they will follow you in every good, decent thing. This is the Islam of women. It's almost like it's social guidelines.
Social guidelines.
Right? So the La Yushrikna covers your prayer, your religion, and all of that. La Yaznina covers your character. But then everything else is just social ethics. It's just, that's the core of the Islam for women. I think other conversations about whether women should work or whether women can have a business or whether women can travel, all of those things, Islam didn't say anything explicitly, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
There's nothing concrete that says women cannot work, nothing that says women cannot have a business or you should stop women from having nothing's there. So I'm not convinced that we can make up those rules because of our preferences when the text isn't there.
So it's not stated in the Quran.
It's not like that in the Quran at all.
Okay.
So which is why I think a lot of times the conversations about this, some people hear me say this, I think I'm being a feminist. I'm not. Actually, I would rather, instead of being influenced by American feminism or European feminism or whatever, I would rather learn early Islamic history. I would rather see, were the Sahabiyat doing businesses? Were the Sahabiyat traveling? Were the Sahabiyat teaching? Were the Sahabiyat involved in society? They were.
Yeah.
They were. So I encourage everybody to just do a deep study of early Islamic history, and you will find the answers to a lot of these questions not in theory, but in practice.
Well, thank you so much for the
welcome.
answer.